welcome to the deep dive. Today we are locking things down and heading to one of the most infamous places ever built, Alcatraz, the Rock.
It's just sitting out there on that lonely island in San Francisco Bay. And, the view is beautiful, but don't let that fool you.
Right.
Alcatraz held prisoners way back in the Civil War, but it was its reinvention in 1934 as a federal prison that really cemented its whole reputation. It was engineered to be completely maximum security. The end of the line.
And the architecture itself, it backed that up. We're talking hardened steel bars, guard towers covering every single angle, and just this incredible level of scrutiny.
Oh, yeah.
They ran a minimum of a dozen official checks on every prisoner, every single day. The bay itself was the last line of defense. That frigid water, those currents, it was a natural wall saying, don't even try.
It's this institutional confidence that's, it's almost arrogance, really, but that confidence was tested constantly. Between 1934 and 1963, you had 36 men try 14 different escapes. Most were caught right away. The few who made it to the water, they rarely survived.
But our deep dive today is about the one exception, the one that became a legend. We're looking at the fate of three men who just vanished into the night on June 11th, 1962.
Yeah, they left behind this incredibly elaborate scene and really the greatest unsolved mystery in American prison history.
Our sources lay out this almost unbelievable plot they came up with, the investigation that followed, and it all leaves us with one central question.
Did they survive?
Exactly. Did they actually make it? Let's unpack this incredible story. So the whole operation, it really revolved around one man, Frank Morris. He got to Alcatraz in January 1960.
Right. And he was in for bank robbery, burglary, but that wasn't really his claim to fame. His real reputation was for being this brilliant planner, a repeat escape artist from other prisons.
He wasn't just some hothead trying to break down a door.
Not at all. He was joined by two brothers, John and Clarence Anglin. John arrived in late 1960, Clarence in early 61. And the crucial thing here is they all knew each other from previous prisons. There was trust.
And the prison administration just put them in cells right next to each other?
They did. A huge mistake. It was the one thing that made the whole plot possible. They also had a fourth guy helping them out, Alan West.
So the plan starts to form around December of 61. And it all began when they spotted, of all things, an architectural weakness.
It started with some old saw blades one of them found. But you're right, the tool wasn't the genius part. The genius was identifying the air vents at the back of their cells as the way out.
This small metal grill.
Exactly. That little vent led into this old, unguarded utility corridor that ran behind the whole cell block. Nobody ever went in there.
But getting that vent out, that's not a simple job. They couldn't just chip away at it. They had to take out the entire section of concrete around it to make a hole big enough to crawl through.
And this is where the famous detail comes in. They needed a drill. Something quiet enough not to alert the guards during those dozen daily checks.
So they built one from the motor of a broken vacuum cleaner.
It's the ultimate MacGyver moment. Just think about the risk, though. That motor had to make some noise, right?
It must have. So how do they drill for weeks, maybe months, without anyone noticing?
They used the prison's own routine against it. The sources say they did most of the drilling during music hour.
Music hour?
Yeah, when loud accordion music was being played in the cell blocks. That, or the noise from the laundry machines. They had to coordinate it perfectly, working in these tiny 15-minute windows.
And then you've got a giant hole in the back of your cell. How do you hide that?
They had to be masters of disguise. They used, whatever they could get their hands on, painted cardboard, a suitcase, anything to make it look like a solid wall during inspections.
And once they got through those holes and into the corridor, that's when the plan just escalated.
Yeah, massively. It really did. They weren't just content to be in the corridor. They figured out a way to climb a network of pipes 30 feet straight up to the roof space inside the cell block.
So they built a secret workshop up in the ceiling.
A secret workshop 30 feet off the ground. It was incredibly dangerous. But up there, they were invisible. They even rigged up a little periscope to watch the guards before the last nightly count.
And this is where they start building their survival gear. The sheer amount of stuff they gathered it's just staggering. We're talking about more than 50 raincoats.
50 stolen, rubberized raincoats. And think about it. Each one had to be stolen, hidden, and then somehow hauled up those pipes without anyone seeing.
And from those 50 raincoats, they built a massive raft, 6 by 14 feet, and life preservers.
But just stitching them together wasn't enough. They had to make the seams completely waterproof, otherwise they'd sink in minutes.
This is maybe the most ingenious part of the whole plan. They vulcanized the seams.
They did. It's a process where you use heat to basically melt and seal rubber permanently. And they did it using the prison's own superheated steam pipes.
I mean, it's just insane. They're running a secret chemical engineering lab based on what a magazine article they read. One slip, one burn, and the whole thing is over.
And they made everything else they needed up there, too. Wooden paddles. They even converted a musical instrument, maybe an accordion, into a bellows to inflate the raft.
Okay, so they have the raft, they have the paddles. They just need the final way out of the building itself.
So they climbed even higher, up a shaft, until they reached the main roof ventilator. It was bolted shut, of course. So they pried it open. But to avoid suspicion, they had to put it back, and they fashioned a fake bolt out of soap.
Out of soap.
Carved it, painted it to look like steel, and just popped it in place. A piece of soap was the only thing standing between them and the outside world.
That one detail says everything about Frank Morris's level of planning. Every single visual check was accounted for. Which brings us to the night of the escape itself, June 11th, 1962.
And the very first part of the plan was all about deception. They needed to buy themselves hours.
The dummy heads.
The dummy heads.
Yeah.
And these weren't just, pillows under a blanket. They were made of plaster, painted with flesh tone paint, and they used real human hair they'd collected from the prison barbershop.
And they worked. The night guards were completely fooled. When the morning check happened, they found the cells empty.
There's this one great story from the investigation. The dummy head in Morris's cell actually had a broken nose.
Why?
Because at some point during the night, a guard apparently reached through the bars, gave it a little shove, and it rolled off the bed and hit the floor. He just picked it up, put it back, and walked on. Assume the guy was just a heavy sleeper.
That casual little shove bought them critical time.
It did, but the plan didn't go off perfectly. Alan West, the fourth man, he got left behind.
What happened?
He just couldn't get his ventilator grill completely removed in time. Morris and the Anglins slipped into the corridor, but West was stuck. He was scrambling, and they had to go without him.
And he's the one who ended up telling the investigators everything.
The entire plan. He laid out the whole blueprint for them.
So the three of them, Morris and the Anglin brothers, they gather their gear, climb out through that soap-bolted ventilator,
make it to the roof, shimmy down a 50-foot bakery smokestack, climb over the fence, and then sneak to the northeast shore of the island to launch their raft.
And this is where all that brilliant planning meets the cold, hard reality of the San Francisco Bay.
Absolutely. We know from West what their plan was. They were aiming for Angel Island. From there, they'd cross Raccoon Strait to Marin County, steal a car and some clothes, and just disappear.
They launched around 10 p.m. to catch the tide. But what actually happened after their raft hit the water? That's where the mystery really begins. What did the FBI find?
Well, the search was immediate, and it was massive. Coast Guard, Bureau of Prisons, everyone. They found a few things right away. A packet of the Anglin's letters, sealed in rubber, was found floating. Then some paddle-like pieces of wood.
And the most important piece.
The homemade life vest. That washed up on Cronkite Beach a few days later. But that was it. After weeks of searching, they never found a body. They never found the raft.
So the FBI keeps the case open for 17 years. But in 1979, they officially close it. They declare the men drowned.
Let's really dig into their reasoning. What were the pillars of that conclusion?
The first, and honestly the most compelling, was just the bay itself. The water temperature is in the low 50s, which is cold enough to cause hypothermia very, very quickly. And the currents are just vicious.
People always say, oh, but athletes have made that swim.
Right, but those are trained swimmers, usually in wetsuits, timing it perfectly with the tides. These guys were in a makeshift raft in the dark under incredible stress. It's a completely different game.
So the FBI's number one reason was just nature. Nature. And the fact that their waterproof packet of letters was found suggests their system for keeping things dry failed almost immediately.
Okay, what was reason number two?
The follow-up plan. Or the lack of one. If they'd made it to Marin, they were supposed to steal a car and clothes. The escape was huge news. Every cop in the area was on high alert. And yet,
no thefts were ever reported that matched.
not a single one. The FBI figured 3 desperate men would have had to do something to get resources, and the fact that nothing happened suggested they never made it to shore.
You could argue, though, that a planner like Morris would have known not to commit a high-profile crime right away.
That's the counter-argument, exactly. The FBI was assuming a certain kind of behavior.
Okay, so the third pillar of their case was financial. They looked into the families.
They did. They watched the England's family very closely to see if any money suddenly appeared, to fund a new life for three fugitives. And they found nothing. No evidence the families had the means to support them.
And the final reason, the simplest one of all.
Time. 17 years went by. And in all that time, the FBI never found a single credible piece of evidence, no body, no verified sighting, to suggest Morris or the Englands were alive. They just vanished.
It's just such a stark contrast. All that human ingenuity, the drill, the soap bolt, the raincoat raft, all of it undone, possibly by just the temperature of the water.
And the mystery is still technically alive. The FBI closed its case, but they handed it over to the U.S. Marshals Service.
Well, they're still wanted men.
Technically, yes. The Marshals keep the files open. They're considered fugitives until their 100th birthdays, just in the 1 in a million chance they're found.
It's an incredible story of human will. But here's the thought I really want to leave you with. It's about the timing.
Go on.
Alcatraz Prison was officially closed down just 1 year after their escape. In 1963, the whole institution was deemed too expensive, too outdated, and the government just abandoned it. So think about what that says. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers put all this energy, all this intelligence and risk into a plan with such a low chance of success. All to beat a prison that was basically going to let them go 12 months later anyway.
That's a powerful thought. Was the real goal freedom? Or was it about proving that this escape-proof fortress could be beaten, that their minds were stronger than the stone and steel? The difference between freedom won by your own wits and freedom given because a building got old? That's a profound thing to think about.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you on the next one.